Hey up everyone, and I'm back with a little chatty draw with me today, and we're going to be working on this little drawing commission in charcoal, and it's a dog that's recently passed away, and there's part of its owner in it as well. And the dog were only 18 months old, so really young. So a friend of mine, she's ordered this as like a gift for owner at dog. So I'm just going to get started on it, but I will apologise now. You might hear some background noise. We've got some people out back fence from us who's got lots of yappy little dogs, so you might hear them from time to time. I'm just going to sharpen the pencil. Because first thing I'm going to do is add the highlights, which I always do in my charcoal drawings. It seems quite backwards, but and I need a piece of glassine paper because I'm just not prepared here at all, really not prepared. So it's just like a little 8x6-ish kind of piece, this A5, and it's the last sheet of paper in pad. So I'm just looking at areas that I've got highlights. So she's got some highlights on her hair at this side of her head, and then there's a lot of highlights because there's a lot of light coming from above, so there's a lot of highlights on top at dog's head as well. I mean, in reference photo there's like top of her head and that's that bit chopped off and stuff, so it'll sort of be similar in this. And I'll just add the highlights where they are in reference photo. So it's a little bit different to when I'm working in acrylics, because I start with darks and then I build up to lights, whereas in this it's totally different. And I've been doing acrylics for a long time, but these charcoal drawings I've only been doing for the last, like, you know, coming up for 3 years now, so I had to build up, you know, some new skills and what have you to work like this compared to what I'd been doing for years with acrylic, where I was just layering down with darks first and then building it up to lights. Anyway, the last video I did like this, it didn't do that well. Hardly anybody seemed to want to watch it. But I enjoy watching these when other people post them. I like to just put them on. I don't necessarily watch them actually drawing or painting, but I like to just hear artists rambling on about things, you know. Because sometimes they might talk about things that I can relate to, and you know, that applied to me as well, you know, because I'm also an artist, and so I just like to stick some on, and because they're quite often a bit longer as well, it means that I can just stick it on and then get on with something that I'm doing, and I don't have to keep finding another video to put on. And you might be hearing cars and things driving past, but fortunately it's quite warm and windows are open and all that, so you can hear everything out on the street. So there's not really much I can do about that. But yeah, I'm just adding these little highlights where you've got them. I don't make these charcoal drawings as finely detailed as me acrylic paintings, so you probably noticed that, you know, I'm just adding these, you know, pretty quickly. I'm not, you know, not really being too concerned with perfection. They do layer quite well. This paper is Clairefontaine mixed media paper. It's toned grey, the gris I think they call it, and it works quite well. It's got a decent bit of tooth in it, so you can like layer quite a bit on this with charcoal, so you can tidy stuff up a little bit later. You know, that's looking a bit, like I said, they look nice when you don't try and be too perfect. There's lots of little stray hairs coming off, because this dog's quite wiry coated. Well, it was. I've already done a portrait of this dog before Christmas last year, so, but yeah, it's I don't know why the dog passed away, but it's bad enough when you lose them anyway. I mean, I've got two here that's 15 years old, and I'm going to be heartbroken when they go, but at least when they do, I know that they've had a good long life, you know, and the fact that both of them have reached 15 as well, it just makes it even better. I was just checking then, see if it was still recording. I get a bit paranoid that it's not recording anymore. That has happened to me. But yeah, it's horrible when you lose them early. So I've got my two at 15, I've got one at 7 years old as well. So, but because I'm doing agility, and I know lots of like dog people and stuff like that, I know lots of people that have got, you know, a lot of dogs, like multiple dog households. So I see posts nearly every day on my Facebook of another dog passing away. It's just part and parcel for me, because they're all dog sports people that I've got on my Facebook friends. So, but yeah, it's sometimes you think, oh, I'm profiting off people's grief here, you know, they've just lost a pet and I'm profiting from it. But then you get people that do undertaking as a job, so not all my portraits are of pets that have like died or recently died anyway. They might have died a few years ago. But a lot of portraits that I do are pets that are still alive, so I'm not just purely doing it off like grief anyway, not like an undertaker. but it just helps people, you know, feel a bit, get a little bit of joy out of the situation when they get a nice portrait of the pet that they've lost. It can just comfort them that little bit. So no, I'm not going to under dog's chin's not too bright anyway, so I'm trying not to really press on too much with white there. This bit here is quite bright, and then this ear is quite bright, and then some hairs on top of the head, but not many. And then top of ear, which goes off the edge at photo anyway, so I left the paper's actually A4 and I've chopped it in half to make it like A5, and I've just kept it in pad. It's last sheet, I've kept it in pad because otherwise it wants to move around everywhere, and it's easier to keep it still whilst it's still attached to back at pad. So anyway, I have got another video in works. You'll probably, in fact, you probably see it before you see this, because this is a secret, so I have to make sure it's been gifted before I can even post this video, just in case it gets seen. But yeah, you can see a little bit around down here. And do a little bit of cross hatching. I think that's mostly it for white tones. This is General's charcoal pencil, by the way, white one. I'll list all my supplies in, that's HB, I'm going to use my 2B. I'll list all my supplies in description anyway, so if you're interested in what it is I'm using, everything's there. I've still not figured out what to do for Americans, because when we've been in UK, it's all linked to like UK Amazon. She's got dark eyebrows. I wish I had eyebrows like this. I've got brown hair, but I've got blonde eyebrows, so you can't see them. So I used to always have to put some brow pencil on them and everything to make them show up, but I just don't bother with out these days. You get to a certain age and it's like, oh, I can't be bothered with all this making myself up just to leave house anymore. You just learn to just accept yourself for being, you know, the Shrek that you are. Just get on with it. And you soon learn to realise that nobody really cares anyway. Everyone just carries on treating you as the same as they always did. So yeah, it's just nice to just get up, get dressed and whatever, and go and do your thing, and not have to spend ages in front of a mirror doing, you know, putting your face on before you go anywhere. It's just a nice freeing feeling. So I think it happens to a lot of us as we get older. When you're younger, you don't leave house without a face full of makeup, and then you just gradually just learn to get over that, and before long you just putting makeup is something that you might do once in a blue moon, like for a wedding or something. Last time I had like makeup on were for a wedding, which were just over a year ago. and it had probably been a couple of years since I'd worn any before that. So, because I've just not been anywhere that warrants it. So I've got to pay a bit more attention now, because I'm not used to doing people. And I don't generally do them, but because there's only her eyes showing, I sort of like decided to just, you know, go along with it. Plus things have been really quiet lately. I've been struggling to get any commissions. I mean, a lot of people go on that they get rate quite in January, but it don't seem to be January for me. It seems to be like the some months that it really drops off. So yeah, things have been a bit on quiet side. Fortunately, because I also grow cacti, I have been selling, I mean, I always do it this time of year anyway, but I've been selling like surplus, when you get like, we call them pups, but basically like offsets. And I'll just list them on Marketplace. And I also like hybridise a specific variety, and when they start flowering, I have to, because I'm a bit lacking in space, I have to decide whether they're going to be staying or going, so I can only keep like the really good, like, you know, like really nice and different ones, and any others they just have to go. And I don't like throwing them away. I'd rather I'd rather somebody else have them just for like a, you know, a low price, just sell them for a couple of quid each. And there's a lot of people who are just sort of like starting collecting, who, you know, they're perfectly nice, you know, for them. They're just not good enough for me as an actual hybridizer. Because one thing I'll tell you about cacti is when you first start collecting them, you basically just get whatever cacti you can get hold of. If it's a cactus, you get it. But then as time goes on, you start developing a preference for specific ones. Now for me, it was stuff that flowered the best, you know, with big showy flowers on it and stuff like that. And that's what I basically were most interested in, and that's what I ended up gravitating towards. And then you have to start, you know, making more space, because you start running out of space, so then you start getting rid of cacti that you're not as interested in anymore to make more space for the ones that you are more interested in. And that's basically what's happened with me now. I mean, I've got a greenhouse. I started up with them just on my windsills when I was still a kid when I started with them, and then filled windsills up, and then before long I had a greenhouse, and then I had a second greenhouse, and I've still just got them two, but they're like connected to each other now to make one big greenhouse. So it's like 16 by 6. And yeah, it's basically it's quite full, so I'm always trying to make space, and at the same time I'm constantly like crossing flowers and making more seeds, and I think I don't even know where I'm going to put these. It's like I don't even know where I'm going to grow them. So yeah, when I get these surplus and what have you, and then they're just not, you know, not exciting enough, I do get rid of them, and it does make me that little bit of space, so to put more of my stuff in. And then basically that's the thing with that, and I can make like a couple £100 in a month, like, you know, just selling like surplus cacti at this time of year. So it just helps to tide me over when things are really quiet, which they have been. And saying that, I had quite a few messages this morning, and then somebody else who sent pictures and was supposed to be sending a payment through, and I'm not heard out about that yet. So, but yeah, it's been very quiet. But this is why I'm trying to work on other stuff as well to make money, and not just commissions, because they're not reliable enough. And I am monetised on here now, but I don't make much, and who knows how long it'll be before I start making a bit more. Oops, somebody's messaging me, so I'm getting dings now, just when I'm recording. This is the only trouble with doing these. You get interrupted by noises, and you can't really control it. There's not a lot you can do about it. But anyway, I have been. Some people keep asking me about a Patreon, and I've actually been just preparing me, you know, a page like ready for creating some content for once. So I've made myself a cover photo, uploaded a profile picture and what have you. Now all I need to do is make some content and decide what kind of content to have on it. Thinking like, you know, some of the stuff that I've posted before that's been sped up a bit and what have you. I'm posting it in real time in sections so that people can see a lot easier what I'm doing. Not so much a draw along tool, because they're all like private commissions, so it's I'd have to be making more money from, you know, just doing tuition rather than commissions. And then I could start deliberately doing pieces specifically for tuition, and then you can perhaps do like draw-alongs or things like that. But obviously not with commissions. So anyway, she's wearing like a puffer jacket type coat here, so I'm just it's quite dark colour as well, like a dark purpley kind of colour. So I'm just adding some charcoal in for that. I know what it is lately, but these charcoal pencils, the black ones, they've not been as good a quality. I don't know whether anybody else has noticed about General's charcoal pencils. They've been a bit scratchy, and if they continue being scratchy, then I'm going to have to find another brand. I've not found out else that I like as much as, well, when they're not scratchy anyway, as much as these. It just feels like I keep coming like across little bits in it that, you know, and it can, when you're trying to do details and stuff, it can cause you to like go wrong as well, which you really don't want when you're doing commissions. So I've been a bit unhappy with the quality. Right. So anyway, her face is a bit darker than Dog's because it's sort of in shadow. I'm going to bring me other charcoal. I've got this is just a cheap one that I got in a packet of, like a set that came, like old graphite pencils that I bought, and it came with like a few other bits and bobs in with it as well, and a couple of charcoal pencils, not branded or old, just came with it kind of thing. So anyway, I think I'm gonna get the blending stump on it now. I've got a smaller one somewhere. I can never find anything. It's totally unorganised. Everything's just piled together. So when I blend it, it's just going to go like lighter, and so I'll have to like layer it up again, come back with more blacks after doing this. I mean, if you've watched any of my charcoal tutorials, you'll know that I have to do this. I'm just like, you know, putting a base in for the time being. Her eyebrows. Like I say, I can't help but envy because mine have always been blonde. It wouldn't be so bad if I had blonde hair, but because I've got brown hair and then blonde eyebrows, it just looks a bit daft. Dog's got a few like hairs that come up above this eye anyway, sort of obscuring the eye a little bit, so sometimes it don't matter so much about getting it perfect when it's going to be partially obscured. And you can never make these small drawings as detailed anyway. I always keep them a little bit on the looser side when they're just like little 8x6 drawings. Because charcoal's not the easiest thing to get fine detail with anyway. But when you're working as small as this, it's even more challenging. I hope that you can hear me well enough with this as well, because obviously I'm just filming it with a phone. Not my usual phone. This phone was actually just given to me cheap. Well, I bought it really cheap, like 15 quid, off a mate of mine, just to use it for like filming. So that's basically all I use it for, filming. And it's just attached to a phone holder, looking down at my desk. I've got a couple of lights. I've not got, some people have got like light boxes and all that, but I just haven't got the room to have out like that. So I just have to struggle with what I've got here. So I've got a light on each side, just like little ones, one of them. I'll have to put them in description as well. I'll have to link to them, what I've got. So they work fine for me for doing this. But they're just like, one's like one of them little mini ring lights with like a, I think they call it a gooseneck, I think. And then the other one is the same, it's like on a bendy neck, but it's sort of like long and straight, so like a tube light. So I've got one of them at sort of at either side, like pointing down at the drawing to illuminate it. Because I've got two windows in this room, but obviously I'm in the middle of the room, and then they've got a window at either end of the room, so it's, and the windows are like east and west facing as well, so it's like it can be a little bit dark in the middle of the room here. So now I don't know where you are. I mean, obviously I'm in UK. People in UK will probably be aware, you know, weather's been quite cool so far in July. It's the 6th of July today, 6. And I remember in July last year when we had that like really sweltering, record breaking 40-degree weather. That's 40 Celsius and not Fahrenheit. Now for this country that's just like unbearably hot. Couldn't manage at all. This weather we're having now, it's a lot better for sleeping and it's a lot better for working. It's supposed to be getting quite warm though for the next couple of days. Obviously not warm in some people's standards, but I'm not a big fan of hot weather. I don't cope so well with it. I cope a lot better with cooler weather. I mean, my preference is for a nice comfortable in-between. But I don't mind, even at this time of year, I don't mind putting an extra layer on as long as it's not raining all the time. I mean, you need some rain. We went actually quite a while without any rain, like, you know, latter part of May and into June. And gardens started getting a bit desperate for it, to be honest. And my water butt were empty. I had no rainwater for my cacti, so when it did rain again, I was glad for it, to be honest. And we've kept having bits of rain since, but no, like, you know, over the top. It's mostly been still dry and pleasant, so I've not minded it not being as warm, to be honest. I don't mind just putting an extra layer on, but still being able to go about my usual activities. I'm not a sun worshipper. I don't sunbathe, I don't like that, so it never has to get hot for me at all. Because all things I like to do, you know, like with dogs and all that, it's all better when, you know, temperatures are a little bit cooler anyway, because when it gets too hot, you can't train. If it gets too hot, like I've even shows I've been entered into, agility shows, I've not gone to them before, you know, if it's going to be about 30 degrees. It's like, no, I'm not taking my dogs and running them in that. So I've stayed at home instead. Even just walking them, you've got to be careful. So I have to get up like early in the morning and take an early in the morning. Now somebody's blowing a whistle on the street. I don't really can hear that. Not worse than when you get a kid get hold of a whistle, because they just keep blowing it and blowing it and blowing it. But yeah, I don't mind it being a bit cooler, and plus you sleep a lot better at night when it's cooler. So when it gets too hot, I just can't sleep very well. Let's say dog training can get cancelled. When we had some hot weather like a few weeks ago, and some dog training were getting cancelled, you know, because it was too hot. So it interferes with my activities, you know, that I normally do. So I'd rather it not be too hot personally. I much prefer. I don't know whether you can hear that car either, some chav driving around in a noisy car. You get plenty of that round here. So now I've got this phone quite close to my face, so I hope that you can hear me alright. It's literally suspended just like in front of my head. I've been able to bring it a bit lower down because obviously it's a smaller drawing, so I've been able to bring it lower down so that the drawing can, like, you know, fill up the height. Because obviously, we being a long form video, I'll be posting it like landscape format. So I wanted this drawing to, like, you know, fill the height at video. So because the phone's really close to my head and my mouth, I'm hoping that it's picking up the sound of my voice quite well. And I don't have to increase volume. Oops. I'm one of these people that actually uses a Stanley knife to it started falling to pieces, as you can see. Because otherwise they go like that and make rounded, lose the pointiness. So I get a Stanley knife and shave them a bit. Get a bit more use out of them before I have to buy some more. So anyway, I'm just nearly finishing up now with, I'll actually go over the whites as well. I'm using a separate blending stump now. This is just for whites, this. I don't use it for darks. Sometimes I use one end for whites and one end for darks, but this one I've just kept it purely for whites. Well, see what this does is it just tones it down a little bit, so you can come up along with more highlights of at the top. So it's good for layering. But I'm still not focusing on perfection just yet. I'm not gonna finish this drawing in this video because otherwise it might be a bit too long. But I thought I'd just do it, you know, in initial layers so that you could see more of a process, because you get more change in these earlier layers. Things are happening a bit more quickly, and then obviously when you get to, you know, details and what have you, and you're being a bit more careful and methodical, it's a case you're just not seeing as much happening in the same length of time. So right, so now that's done, right, just a little bit of excess white on there, and I'll just use it to smooth the skin out and what have you on and edges of them shadows and what have you. And then I tend to go back to the blacks again and start adding like the really darks, because obviously using that blending stump has lightened everything up. So I think I'm just going to focus on at minute and get that done before working down, drawing to the bottom. Like I say, you can spend as long or as little time as you want on these. So you could spend longer on it and make it more detailed and perfect if you so wanted to. Or you can spend less time and not be so perfect. Have it a bit looser. And it really don't matter. You get a lot of people who get a little bit snobby about it. I've talked about this in me is realism art, you know, is realism real art? I did a video about it because you get fed up with people constantly berating realism. And it always seems to be realism that's copying flack. I don't know why. Any other style's fine, but realism you're not allowed. It's not real art. It's not creative, and it's like, it's always said by people that are no good at it. So I think that's very telling as to why they feel the need to constantly criticise it and what have you. Now I personally enjoy lots of different styles, you know, I don't want everything to be the same. But when you hear people saying things like, oh, you may as well just take a photo, well, there's a few things wrong with that, because I'm also a photographer, and what I get from photography and what I get from painting, you know, something like really realistic, is just not the same thing. It's just not, and that's it. Because it's not just about the results, it's about the process. Just using my Tombow eraser to get rid of a few of these smudges. And then you end up with loads of bits left, so I'll just pick them up with some kneaded eraser. Get rid of them. That's it. So yeah, it's totally not same when you're photographing. But not only that, people have got this idea that with photography, the only style you're doing is realism. And it's like, no, you can do abstract and impressionism and all that with photography. So if their logic is that if you can do it with a camera, you may as well just take a photo, then that must apply to all styles of art, because even straight from camera, if you know how to use your settings and that, you can quite easily produce images that have got, like, you know, impressionist or even abstract quite kind of qualities. So if you can do it like with a camera, straight from a camera, what's the point in doing art anymore at all, if that's what logic people are going to use? But like I say, it's a lot of it is in the process and not in the result. I mean, I've asked clients myself, and because obviously I've done quite a few realistic portraits from photos that I took myself, and the photos were nice photos. They could have just bought, you know, the photo, and they might have already bought, you know, a copy of photo, so they might already have it. But then they want me to do a painting from it in the style that they know that I work in, which is realism. And it's like, well, why would they want me to do that when all they have to do is print the photo off? It's like, well, you've got to ask yourself, haven't you? So when I've asked them this, they're like, it's because there's an emotion in the painting that you just don't get in the photos. Photos might be nice, but they're just not the same, even to them. For me, it's vastly different, because the process itself is vastly different, and that's partly what you're getting out of it. But even for them that are not part of the actual process, it's just not the same. So these people that don't get that, then, well, clearly they're missing something, aren't they, that not everybody else misses. Lots of little, like, stray flyaway hairs. Yeah, I know all about flyaway hairs. My hair's terrible. Only have to have the slightest little breeze and it'll just lift all my hair up, and it'll just go everywhere. So I can never have my hair down. I've always got to, like, you know, keep it tight, and not even just in a ponytail either, because the actual ponytail itself just ends up like a knotty mess. So I always have to, like, put it in like an actual braid or something like that. And now that I'm getting older, it's just getting thinner. Yeah, it's just getting thinner, and it was thin enough to start with. Bad genes from my dad's side, because mum's got right thick hair, right thick. But my dad's side, I got right thin hair, and unfortunately that's where I've got my thin hair from. It's from my dad's side, unfortunately. I suppose it's not so bad as some of the things that you can possibly inherit from others. I know some people with Huntington's disease, for example, and well, thin hair's hardly out to worry about compared to that, is it? In the reference photo there's a little bit of flare coming out from the top, but I don't know when I'm going to attempt that. Just leave it as like this. Well, that side of her face has got a bit of highlight on from that side. Quite dark under her eye there actually, some shadows. So I'm just going to put that in and then blend it. And then there's lots of little pokey hairs sticking up from the dog's head. That's going to be hiding a lot of this. Yeah, another reason I've chose a smaller picture to do for this time, because on my last chatty one and it were a big A3 one, and because it were a lot bigger I got a lot less done during chatty draw with me, so unless somebody were actually interested in what I've got to say, then wouldn't have been as much interest, because there were less actual work done in it. And these are just too rounded for this kind of detail. So I think I'm just gonna make that into a bit more of a point with my Stanley knife. Thing about charcoal, you have to sharpen them regular. So I use the Stanley knife and get a bit of a point out. It's not the same kind of point as what you can get with graphite pencils and all that, but this eye is actually in reference photo not quite as open as what it appears to be here, so I'm just gonna close it up that slight bit, and there's lots of like layers on top at dog's head that sort of obscure it a little bit, which is fine by me because, like I say, doing people is not my forte. Some like other like little. She's wearing one of these, like it's not a full hat, it's like one of them head scarf type thingies where it only like covers like the front part of your head, and then it leaves your hair at back like open and free. So it looks like she's wearing one of them. So anyway, I've seemed to have run out of things to talk about. So unless you're actually interested in watching me draw this, you're probably getting a bit bored now. So yeah, it might be time to just bring the video to an end and finish it up there for now. I'm finding it difficult because I'm really concentrating now. So I'm finding it more difficult to like ramble on as well because I'm really concentrating on what I'm doing. So hopefully this turns out okay. And I've been going for nearly an hour, so I think that's well long enough, to be fair. So I think, yeah, I think I might just blend this a little bit, and then I think I'm going to end it for now. So yeah, sorry you didn't get to see it rest at drawing in process. I just thought I'd do it, you know, whilst I were something else to post. Like I say, I've got another time lapse coming up, an acrylic one. People seem to like my acrylic videos a lot more than my charcoal ones. It seems to be a lot more popular. So I have got another of them coming up. It's another border collie. Yeah, very common subject for me. So all I've got to do is a bit of a voiceover for it. But obviously I'm going to try not to talk as much this time. Because somebody, I mean, I think I'd been thinking about it anyway. I thought, you know, maybe I shouldn't be like, clear my throat. Maybe I shouldn't be speaking like constantly through it, and just leave a few moments when it's just music and me working. And then somebody commented recently saying the same thing. So I thought, yeah, that gives me a good reason to do it then, because somebody else has also suggested the same. So I will show you the finished drawing at end. I'm going to just stick on end of this video because I can't upload this video until it's been gifted anyway, so it'll be all finished and photographed, and I'll just stick an end at this. But anyway, I'm going to have to leave it there now, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!